Hi, welcome back to Finally Revealed. In this episode, I want to talk about the concept of cognitive dissonance. Cognitive dissonance is a psychological situation where there is an incongruence or a lack of matching up of beliefs with a behavior or an action or a reality. So it's two words. Cognitive means your mental action or process of understanding, what you think. We've already talked in other videos that a belief is just a thought that you keep thinking. Some of them are well up through you and your life experience. Some beliefs come at you through dogma or family or religion or politics, and you have incorporated them into you and you've taken those on as your own belief. Dissonance means when there is a disconnect, when things don't match up. Things are inconsistent or they clash. If you are familiar with music, and there are certain pieces that are composed in harmonic dissonance, and those are typically, how I can describe them, as they kind of they're just off, just a little bit. They're just off. You know, we know about our typical songs and flowing melodies, and I don't know the technical terms, but the dissonance is just where something is going along and then something kind of, it's just a little bit different. Or maybe when, another type of example, you go to take a piece of candy and you pick it up and put it in your mouth, and it's not candy. It looks like some type of little mint, and it's actually an olive. Or when we were kids, we would go to a restaurant for our birthdays, and my little sister would get pancakes, and she loved to see the big glob of whipped cream on the top and would take her fork and dig in there and take a big bite. Well, it wasn't whipped cream, it was butter. So you see how you have an expectation that it's this way, but it's really not. And those are small examples, but cognitive dissonance is a big thing. It requires, for it to be affecting a person, in addition to just something not matching up, it has to be something not matching up that then impacts the individual person, because they become aware that they are acting in a way that is inconsistent with their beliefs. And maybe they papered over it or made excuses. Or it can be brought on through relationships or dealing with people and finding out that they're not the way that you thought they were. And as a very tiny example would be little kids. They think that their teacher lives in the school or always wears that dress. I had a Spanish teacher who wore 3 outfits every single day and just alternated, which was fine. But then if you saw her out somewhere, she was dressed completely differently. And so you go, oh, I had this idea of you in this certain way, but now I see you in this fancy party dress. It's completely different. And so it is the act of realizing it. Now, the psychological part then is when there is a mismatch and it causes stress to the body, physically or mentally. And that's when it is something that has to be dealt with in a serious way, either by recognizing that there has been a mismatch and I have the power, if it's my mismatch, to fix it, or to recognize that someone else is not who I thought they were, and for me to wrap my head around the fact that this is how they really are, not what I thought. And the closer they are to you personally, and the more invested you are in what you thought they were, the bigger the reaction. Although these days, with some people and their political beliefs and how they have no tolerance for anyone else or any other ideas, if and when they find out that that person that they loved or that person that they hated is not who they thought they were, this can give rise to a collective cognitive dissonance. And in these changing times, we should be prepared for that and to help these people along the way if they want that from us. So here are some examples of cognitive dissonance. In a person, it can show up as hypocrisy. Maybe they smoke when they know the dangers of smoking. Maybe they have someone close to them who died of emphysema. They see the warning labels on the pack of cigarettes, but they convince themselves that I need this to lose weight, or I've tried quitting and I just can't quit, so I don't have a choice but to smoke. Or I need it because it's what all my friends do, and for me to socially fit in, I have to do this. All right, when they know that it's something harmful for them. The easiest one to see is a hypocrite, not just a person who should know because it's plastered everywhere that what they're doing is harmful to them, but they do it anyway, but someone who further comes out and tries to affect your behavior and tell you to do something that they themselves don't do, or worse yet, sell you on a program that they are doing and to show you that you should do it as well, when in fact they're not doing it. And this can come in the form of people who advocate exercise programs that they don't actually do, or supplements that they actually don't take, or creams or potions that they actually don't use, but they represent to you that they do in order to take your precious money away from you. It can be in the form of someone in the media who proclaims or leads you to believe that they're telling you the truth, that they're telling you a factual story, when in fact they are reading a script that is the same, when in fact it's the same script that's passed to every other person in that company, which owns a station in all of the other cities as well, and it has nothing to do with, or very little to do with, what a particular person said or an event, but they are presenting it to you and have you believe that they are a journalist instead of a person reading a piece of paper to you that someone else prepared. They're lending their credibility and their relationship to you onto this story or this whatever they're telling you, when they don't have any relationship to it and they are just reading what was just handed to them. And sometimes when they know that it was just handed to them for the purpose of getting you to believe something that their management wants you to believe, and so they're using this medium to deliver it that way. It could be someone who claims to be environmentally conscious, and yet they drive a car that's not electric, that's not a hybrid, that's all gas, and they drive in it all the time. They have 7 other cars for their family. They don't take the carpool lane. They don't recycle. They don't compost. They buy everything in plastic. They buy plastic bottles and they're piled up. They have the most trash of anyone on the block, and yet their recycle bin is never out. A really big one that I had to overcome myself is an animal lover who eats meat and who eats animal products and who wears animal products. They have somehow disassociated what's on their plate or in the bag that they're unwrapping to eat in the car from animals inside a building or inside a pond or inside some other contraption or container, not freely walking around in the dark, in dank and terrible conditions, pumped full of antibiotics, pumped full of other hormones to grow as big as they can, to then just be harvested and killed and put on a plate, or skinned and put on your feet. And somehow, just like the way money has been taken out of your hand, where you're not handing over $1 or €1 or a yen anymore, you are using a card or you're waving your phone, so that the act of handing over money is a lot easier, rather than thinking, what do you have in your wallet and how much do you have in there and what are the necessities that you have to buy, and someone is making it easier to take it right out of there. So the food, you're not seeing it butchered. You're not seeing it brought in and killed and cut up and then put on your plate or your grill. It's coming through a processing system that it doesn't resemble what it started out to be. And we've had stories where it doesn't have a relationship to what it started out to be. And then it's put in a patty and it's covered up with sauce and then it's handed to you. And so there's that disconnection factor, which enables the cognitive dissonance. But as I said, it's the once you are aware, that's where the rub is. It's when you become aware. And I'm really trying to advocate conscious living and conscious decision making. And so this all fits into that. Once you are conscious of what you are doing, then you can examine, what are my biases? What am I telling myself? Am I trying to convince myself that this is the way it is, that this is the only way I can do things? Once you realize it, that's where the hard work comes. And people can become aware of the way they are. And many people are aware of it on some level, but they override it. And they override it with denial or excuses. If they really examine it, they can feel confused or anxious or guilty. And they don't like those feelings, so they override it. They may make excuses. They may hide their actions from others. If they're proclaiming one thing and they're living another way, they may prevent you from seeing it, which then, as I said, causes you to have cognitive dissonance when you see somebody who's a vegan eating a steak and you go, wait a minute. So they hide it from you, they hide it from other people in an attempt to hide it from themselves, but they are doing it. So they're really not, it's not terribly effective, but in their mind, I guess maybe it is. They will rationalize their actions or their beliefs over and over. If they like this person and they don't like this person in the government or in their life or in their job, they're going to come up with reasons to keep this belief they have alive and ignore outside influences, ignore factors that they may see or hear about. And then if there is it might be you that is trying to show them some information in a different way. Maybe you're not defending the person they don't like, but you're just giving them some examples that maybe their opinion was formed over one issue or one situation, but that does not, one situation or one action doesn't define a person usually. And maybe you're the person that's trying to show them additional things so that they can then evaluate on their own. Their best way to insulate themselves and reinforce what they've already decided is to then exclude you. Some people don't want help. We hear about interventions where people are trying to save someone's life who is going down the path of drug abuse, or they are those people that are eating so much that they can't get out of a room, and people want to come in and help them, and the answer is usually you can't save someone else from themselves, so they will exclude you unless you can be the person who brings them the drug or drink or food. If they can use you in some way, they may do that, and then that's the opportunity for you to then walk away. But they're reinforcing what they have decided because they don't want to feel the shame, the guilt, or the stress, psychological stress of facing what's happening. Now, in relationships with other people, like I've given a few examples on cognitive dissonance, when you realize someone is not the way that they have portrayed themselves, the closer that person is to you in your personal life, the potentially more extreme the bad feelings or the confusion in your brain is going to be, and the bigger the shock. Or if you have a really strong belief that has been unshakable and you've been fighting with other people to defend it for a very long time, and that's the only subject you ever talk about with your friends or your family, and then you have no choice but to see, for example, someone is going to jail, or someone that you believed was terrible turns out to do a very good thing, and you realize that, oh my God, I was completely wrong. And these, not only were you wrong, but then everyone who sold you this bill of goods did not have your best interest at heart, had an agenda to deceive you, and that can be very upsetting. Some people then, on a personal level, will still not see and take the appropriate steps to remove the person from their life or remove themselves from the situation. They will take it on themselves that there's something wrong with them, and that maybe, they don't see that it's these other people or things, and they still try to want to hang on to it, and therefore the only answer they can say is, I must be mentally ill, or I must be unstable because this person is so wonderful. And I had a personal experience. I have some videos up about empathy and narcissistic personality disorder, and I'm not a doctor. I'm a JD, but I'm not a medical doctor, and I do not have the credentials to diagnose anyone, but I have read through the materials, a lot of materials, and I was involved with the person I'm convinced had narcissistic personality disorder, was on that extreme. And in dealing with the person and believing them to be a certain way, and then having little tidbits of information come out, and then you try to, as a reasonable person, you try to reconcile what you're learning or seeing with what you believe. And at some point there's critical mass, or in my situation there was a big bang, a big thing happened, and then you have it right in your face, and then you have the choice to line up everything you thought. How does it all line up? It's like putting a puzzle together, and you have the puzzle together, but all of a sudden a chunk of the pieces flip around, and they show you have this one picture on the top of the puzzle. Now it's flipped around, it's a whole different picture. So then you go, wait a minute. And in my case, I just said, okay, everybody out. And then I flipped it back around. It fit together much better. It was the truth. And then you have feelings in yourself. How did I get myself into this? How did this go on so long? Why didn't I uncover it sooner? And you have to then reconcile. And as we know, in those types of toxic relationships, you have to first of all, get out of it. Just get out of it, block everybody, get out of it, no looking back. That's the healthiest way to do it. It still takes time, and then there are residual things that you have to work through. But it can be a very shocking situation. And there are many people who come into those situations or get into those situations, ignore flags, which we should not ever do that, give people chances that we should not give them. And so now they're so invested, their whole community is around, and they just feel like they can't. They feel like they can't get out. Or then if they're pushed out, they feel like, well, it's back on me. And so cognitive dissonance can happen at a very personal level. It can happen in a familial level. It can happen in a society or group. And it can happen in your country. It can happen in the world. And it can happen about one person or a whole group of people. The way out from it is to recognize it, to really recognize what has happened, to take a little inventory. Where did I exactly get that idea or that belief? Where did that really come from? Was it told to me? Was it kind of a herd mentality that we were all joining in, and momentum? Momentum can really do a lot of good and a lot of damage. It's just speeding up for its own sake. It's not usually your agenda, it's usually someone else's agenda. How are you playing into someone else's agenda? Can you just stop? Can you just stop and sit back? Those people, if it's in a group situation, those other people are going to try to keep you, oh no, let's just hang on and hang on. I urge you, look at your critical thinking in that situation. If that happens to you, look at your critical thinking and use your discernment, use your reasoning abilities on your own. That's another good reason we've had this pause lately, is to develop and refine your own decision-making ability, and to really look at something more critically and see, wait a minute, how did I get here? And now open your mind and look. And adjust your behavior. Let go. If what you were hanging on to is not right, you feel it. When the truth comes, you feel it and you will know it. And it's no one's fault. There should not be blame. You're going to work through all of those types of things and feelings and emotions. Some people may really take it hard, but to be prepared and to understand how you got there, and then sit back and take it all in. If you were a victim with a lot of other people, just take it all in. Don't make any false moves right away. Don't make any, reactionary moves. And get yourself realigned. You know what your principles are. You know where you are best lined up with your thoughts and beliefs. And if one of those big beliefs changes in a concept or a person, you have the ability to center yourself and sit back and then accept the truth. The sooner you accept the change in what is versus what you thought it was, the better you will be, and the better you'll be able to help other people. So that is cognitive dissonance. If this was helpful, if you learned something, give me a thumbs up. Leave any comments or questions below. Subscribe to see the other videos. Please share this with someone now or later who might benefit. Subscribe to see the other videos and come back and see me next time. Thanks for watching.